power of self-discipline. Master your mind and unlock your potential. There was a time when Daniel believed that his life was simply the sum of his circumstances, a blend of luck, talent, and opportunities. He had convinced himself that people who succeeded were simply chosen by fate, that some invisible hand had sculpted their lives differently. And because of this belief, Daniel lived passively, moving through his days like a leaf carried by the wind. Wherever it blew, he followed. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't foolish. He was just drifting. His mornings began with the same routine: a groggy scroll through his phone, promises to start fresh tomorrow, and quiet resentment toward those who seemed to have figured life out. His ambitions lived in the realm of someday. He told himself that when the time was right, he'd become the person he was meant to be. But the truth was, the time was never right. It never is. For years, Daniel's life remained a cycle of unfinished projects, half-hearted efforts, and silent frustration. He often felt an ache deep within, not the pain of failure, but the pain of potential left unused. He knew there was something greater inside him, but every time he tried to reach for it, his mind pulled him back with 1,000 excuses. He wanted success, yet he couldn't master the small daily decisions that built it. Then one evening, something shifted. It wasn't dramatic or loud. It was quiet, the kind of realization that comes not from inspiration but from exhaustion. He looked around his cluttered room, his unkept desk, the unfinished goals pinned on his wall, and finally admitted to himself that no one was coming to save him. Not a mentor, not a miracle, not motivation. What he needed was discipline, the power to act even when he didn't feel like it. That night marked the beginning of Daniel's transformation, not the kind that happens overnight, but the one that begins in the smallest, most ordinary choices. He decided that from the next morning he would take control of one thing: his morning. The first day was difficult. The alarm rang at 5 and his mind instantly rebelled. Every cell in his body screamed for comfort. He could almost hear his inner voice whispering 5 more minutes. But something inside him refused. He got up. Not because he was motivated, but because he had made a promise, a quiet commitment to himself. The room was cold. The world was asleep. But in that silence he felt something new, a faint sense of power. Not external, but internal. The kind that grows when you do something hard, not because you want to, but because you said you would. Over the following weeks, Daniel's life began to take shape, not through grand achievements, but through repetition. Each day he woke up early, exercised, and worked on a personal goal before the world could distract him. There was nothing glamorous about it. No applause, no validation, just effort. Quiet, consistent effort. At first he felt no reward, no visible progress. His mind kept asking, "Why are you doing this?" Nothing's changing. But he stayed the course, and slowly something incredible began to happen. The fog in his mind started to clear. He began to feel in control of his days, and that control gave him confidence. The discipline that once felt like punishment became his greatest form of freedom. Because discipline, he realized, wasn't about restriction. It was about direction. It wasn't a cage. It was a compass, each small victory built upon the last. He started reading again, journaling, and setting real goals instead of vague dreams. He stopped saying someday and started saying today. He stopped chasing motivation and started building momentum. And for the first time, he began to respect himself. Self-respect, that was the true reward. Because when you keep the promises you make to yourself, you no longer need others to validate your worth. As months passed, Daniel's transformation became visible to those around him. His friends noticed the calm confidence in his posture. His colleagues saw a new level of focus in his work. But no one truly understood the battles he fought within, the countless mornings he rose despite fatigue, the temptations he resisted when no one was watching, the quiet war between the person he was and the person he was becoming. Discipline had become his weapon, his shield, his foundation. He began to see that self-discipline wasn't just about waking up early or following routines. It was about mastering his emotions, controlling his impulses, and aligning his actions with his values. It was about doing what needed to be done, even when it was inconvenient. There were days when he failed, days when his old habits resurfaced, days when the voice of doubt returned louder than before. But each time he stumbled, he remembered how far he had come. He no longer viewed failure as a reason to stop. It became a reminder that growth was messy, painful, and real. Through discipline, Daniel had unlocked something far more powerful than success. He had unlocked his potential. He began to approach life with intention. Every action, every word, every thought became a choice instead of a reaction. He stopped waiting for perfect conditions and started creating them. He no longer asked, "Will this be easy?" But instead, "Will this make me better?" And as his mindset evolved, so did his life. He started a small business that aligned with his passion, helping others cultivate mental strength and purpose. It wasn't easy, but he treated every obstacle as an opportunity to test his discipline. The same persistence that once dragged him out of bed now pushed him through uncertainty. People began to ask him what changed. How did he turn his life around? They expected a secret formula, a hack, a moment of revelation. But Daniel smiled inwardly because he knew the truth. The change had not come from one moment, but from thousands of small moments when he chose discipline over comfort. That was the real power. He learned that mastering the mind wasn't about eliminating weakness. It was about training it. The mind, left undisciplined, would always choose the path of least resistance. But with discipline, it could be reshaped, reprogrammed, refined. Daniel's journey became a quiet revolution, not against the world, but against himself. Against laziness, fear, doubt, and distraction. Each victory, no matter how small, carved a new version of him, one that was sharper, stronger, and more alive. He understood now that discipline was not a destination. It was a lifelong companion. Some days it would feel heavy. Other days it would feel light. But it was always worth carrying, because discipline, when practiced long enough, transforms into something extraordinary. Self-mastery. And with self-mastery comes freedom. Freedom from procrastination, freedom from self-doubt, freedom from the opinions of others. Daniel no longer chased motivation. He had outgrown it. Motivation was fleeting, but discipline was permanent. Motivation depended on feelings, but discipline was forged through choice. He became unstoppable not because he had all the answers, but because he had built the strength to keep moving forward despite not having them. And as he looked back on his journey, he realized something profound.